In this lesson, Langchen and I are going to be going over footwork positioning, some of the errors that we make when we are trying to find our on guard and we're moving, and specifically how our on guard is supposed to function and how our footwork is supposed to help us set up our actions. To start with, we're going to look at foot positioning, because this is a big issue that lots of fencers end up running into, and even experienced fencers kind of run into this trouble. What I want us to do is divide it into three sections. First one is the correct, second one is going to be a T-shape, and the third one is going to be divergent. And I'm going to explain what these are through demonstration. So the first one is where your heels are aligned. That means there's a straight line between them, they line up. This is the ideal on guard that you want. There's no issue with this. You're going to move forward in the straight line, you're going to move back in the straight line. You're going to want your hand in front, shoulder in alignment with your front knee. This is a good position. Second one is a T. Now this is pretty common with beginners and intermediate fencers, and this is usually a result of not practicing very well or not getting the corrections, kind of just sloppy work. And that is where your front foot is more in alignment with your back foot toe than it is with the heel. This is going to create more of a T shape. This is a problem because this is going to result in you pushing a lot more from your shoulder and twisting a lot more from your hip as you are off balance. So this is going to affect the direction you're moving, and this is also going to affect how you're setting up your touches. So a very big deal. Third one is also divergent, but is moving in the other direction. And that's where your front foot and your back foot are simply parting. So that means your front foot isn't aligning with anything behind you, and your back foot isn't aligning with anything behind you either. This leaves your upper body floating above an empty space. There's nothing really there to hold you up. And the big problem with this is when you move, you are very much broad-chested. Your entire target's facing forward. Your front shoulder is going to be pointing out to the side because it's supposed to be lining with your front knee, and this is going to cause you to go to the side. Not a good thing because all of your attacks will fall short, and you're also going to be lunging to the side. When you retreat, you're going to be stepping off to the side as well. So not a great position to be in. Now that we know what those three forms of footwork position are, we're going to put them into action so you see precisely how they affect you. So Langchen's going to stand on guard. He's going to be starting in the T shape first. That's where his front heel is aligning more or less to the center of his foot or to his toe. In this position, his hip is now displaced. So when he's going to step in or he's going to lunge, it's going to come from the hip. It's going to cause him to rotate. So if he lunges, his shoulder and his hip is going to twist in towards his left side. So I'm going to get him to lunge at me. He's going to lunge. And you can see his foot is passing to the left. His shoulder is twisting. You can see his back. He's off balance. And he's starting to fall. So he's going to recover. You can see it's really difficult to recover from that position as well because you're off balance. It doesn't really help a lot. This is a big issue because when you're moving, let's try some movement. So he's back to on guard. And he's going to be moving forward, so he's advancing. No big issue there, but when he starts to retreat, you're going to notice that he's starting to move to the right side. This is because his heel is not in alignment, he's drifting. So two big issues. You're attacking, always twisting. When you're retreating, you're moving off to the side, so not a great start. Now we're going to start with the divergent, where your feet are completely misaligned. So he's back to on guard. And you can see right now, it's quite broad in the chest. So if he starts to advance, he's going to be moving to his right a lot more. And when he lunges, he has to push his blade in to catch me because he's moving in the wrong direction. So he's farther away. And again, also off balance. So if he puts his feet back into that original position where they're both divergent, he's going to start his retreat. You're going to see which direction he moves. So I'm advancing, he's retreating, and you can see he's immediately going off the side of the piece. This is no good. This is a very bad position to put yourself in because all of your lunges are going to be short to catch them, you're going to have to chase the target with your shoulder. And this means a lot of the time you're going in like this. It's not the great place to be. Now the last one is the correct form that we want to look at. So your feet are going to be in alignment, heel to heel. So when he's moving forward, he's going to maintain that position. So he's advancing, and you can see it's a straight line. There's no issue there. When he commits to a lunge, you can see everything is in alignment. His shoulder is in alignment with his knee. His back is not visible to me, and when he recovers, he's nice and balanced. Now that we know how our feet are supposed to be positioned, we're going to be looking at how much distance we need between those feet. Generally speaking, there are 3 positions that we're going to be most familiar with. They're not entirely wrong, but there is a certain situation that calls for each position. We're going to start with the first one, which is going to be your general on guard. Every coach kind of has a different opinion on this. It depends on the technique and the school of thought. For me, it's usually 2 steps of separation. So if you put your feet together, you're going to be stepping the distance of your own foot. So that's 1, that's 2. And this should be the space that you're looking at, should be approximately the same distance as your shoulders are apart. So you sit down, back knee is over your back toe, front knee is over your front ankle. This is the ideal position that you want to be in. This allows you to move without losing balance. It gives you a lot of control over your distance. You can reach a lot further. Your shoulders are in alignment. This is very good. Now, second one we're going to look at is where your feet are too close together. That is maybe 1 step of separation, or even worse, they're really, really close. The issue with this is it means you're standing up. You can't really bend your knees. You're not in a stable position. So when you're here, you're tall, but you don't have the same reach you do. You don't have the same balance that you do when you are sitting lower with a greater separation of your feet. So this is not a great position depending on what you're doing with it. And we're going to look at how we apply this a little bit later. The third one, same situation, it is situational, doesn't apply for everything, and that's where your feet are simply too far apart. 4 steps of separation. This really lowers your profile, lowers your center of gravity. The issue being, you can't really step that easily, you can't advance or retreat that freely, and your lunging is already going to be pretty limited because of the depth that you've got. So this isn't a great position, but again, it depends on the situation, which we're going to look at now. Okay. Starting with the first position that we started with, 2 steps of separation. We're both on guard. 2 steps of separation. We're in the proper position. This is a very good position simply for most situations. It gives you a lot of balance, a lot of security. So if I advance, Lanchan's not going to have any difficulty retreating from this. If I do the same thing, same deal. If he attacks me, my profile is pretty low, so I can make that parry. I can make that riposte. If he recovers, it's the same thing. If I push the attack, I attack, he parries. He's in a good position to set up a defense. So all around is a very balanced, controlled position. When you lunge, you have a lot of depth. You can propel yourself forward. You can change tempo. It's a very ideal position. So the second one we're going to look at is going to be where your feet are too close together. Now situationally, this is usually something you're going to apply when your opponent is distant, not very close to you. You don't need to consume that amount of energy that you do with your traditional standard on guard. So you can be a little bit more relaxed, you're stepping forward. Your on guard is pretty relaxed too. And the reason for this is there's so much distance, you don't have to worry about your opponent catching you off guard. It allows you to maintain a certain level of energy, you get to relax, and you get to observe what your opponent is doing. Ideal for when there's a lot of separation between you and your opponent. Third one we're going to look at is the separation where your feet are very far apart. Now for this situation, let's assume that the line that Lanchan is at is the end of the piece. You can't really just freely retreat, otherwise I will get a point by driving him off the piece. Having that significant separation is going to limit how quickly he can move and the depth of his step, but it does give him a lot of control so that he can parry my attack. He lowers his profile considerably, center of gravity is a lot lower, so he's not likely to fall, and it gives him really fast response time. So I'm going to push him, and he's going to parry and riposte from that position. So he's going to widen the stance just a little bit more, and I'm going to push. He's going to take his retreats. He's going to make sure he's got 1 foot over the line. So I'm pushing, he's retreating, then I attack. There's the action. So not terribly difficult, but as you can see, it requires a lot of energy. Your legs are getting really tried. Now I did mention, it's not a great position for a lunge, and you can see after he parried, he did try a lunge after he hit me, but you don't have to do that. The reason for that is when you're sitting so low, you have a lot of reach already. Your lunge is limited. You're not moving as far as you need to, but that's because you already have that reach necessary to find the target. Now you wouldn't fence an entire bout like this because it would be exhausting, you wouldn't be able to move, and what's worse, you're actually exposing your back. Less of an issue on the end line there, but you would only use this as a means of sharp defense. You're pushed back, you're going to sit really low, and it gives you a lot more freedom to defend at that end line, reduce the profile of your target, while maintaining the control over reach that you need.